The drill at the end, offense was move the ball period from the 35-yard line. If they scored a touchdown, then the defense had to do push-ups. If they didn't, offense had, or actually the defense of players had to carry the pads in, and vice versa. So the coaches, we still have to do push-ups. I do push-ups for both sides. Be clear on that one. He's dealing with some muscle tightness, so we're just holding him back for until he gets better.
When Kai started where he normally practices, and then it looks like towards the end of practice you pulled him out of team drills. Why was that?
He's still working through his pitch count.
Michael Carter probably didn't have the season that he would anticipate what he wanted last year. Just talk about what you've seen from him this offseason and during training camp.
Professionalism is the best way I can explain it. You know, he comes out, he does his job. He's not the first or the last player to have not the second year that they want. You know, it seems to be like a little plague that goes around in the NFL with second-year players. But he's been great this entire offseason. He's very deliberate in the way he works through, and excited about him. You know, first day of pads is one thing that we know he has is unbelievable contact balance, and you know, so his mental makeup and all that, I think he's going to bounce back really well.
Is this a big chance for him to talk with Brees out?
Yeah, it's a chance for all of them to, especially when the preseason games hit, to carry the rock and not necessarily show us, but remind everybody why he is who he is, and so excited for him to get his opportunities.
Izzy had that long run. I mean, obviously, you know, he's got really good speed. For him, what's going to be like the biggest transition?
Urgency. You know, usually what at least seems to be what I'm noticing is that running backs coming from college, you know, they got 100 plays to go through, so there's a little bit. It's a little different. But the sense of urgency is the one thing, and it was no different than with Brees last year. You know, just a sense of urgency, the finish, the running through contact, all the different things that they didn't have to do in practice when they were. I'm assuming anyway. But his level of urgency is just going to have to catch up with what the standard is around here.
Robert Will was back out there today. What did you see from him in his return?
I'll go back and look at the tape, but just getting to know him over the last couple of months, I can promise you there was a lot of effort, a lot of freaky athleticism, and but with the pads first on, I'll be curious to see what it looked like. He's not that he's afraid of pads, but just pads changes everybody. So.
Garrett and Aaron hooked up 2 more times, a touchdown on the move the ball period, and then another one on the left side of the field at deep one. How have they been able to develop such quick chemistry?
Constantly communicating, working. You know, there's still a long road ahead in terms of all the communication and getting on the same page. I think there's even more to it. I've seen Aaron work with, you know, just going against him and what he was able to do with Devontae and how in sync they were. It was more than just go balls. It was just a nod, and they knew exactly what was going to happen next. So I'll speak for Aaron on this, and that I can imagine that there's even a greater level of continuity that can be gained. But love the direction it's going, and those 2 throws were pretty darn cool.
I referenced those 2 throws. You smiled. You're fighting back a smile. I mean, are you starting to get a little? Are you letting yourself get a little?
No,
with these 2?
I told you guys. I joke around, but I'm serious too. The guy glows in the dark, so he's a pretty damn good quarterback.
Are you impressed? I guess how quickly they've managed to go from in about a week. It looked like they were a little lost on the field together on the first day, and now all of a sudden they're out here.
No, I don't know if surprised or impressed or anything. It's just I guess it's expected. You know, they've got such a high standard for themselves, and so you expect them to get on the same page.
Sometimes you mix the quarterback and the receiver together, and they don't mix together. They're separate. What made you believe that this was going to?
They're so intrinsically motivated. Usually, the oil and water is when one just doesn't want to give the same amount of effort as the other one. Garrett's all in. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Doesn't matter where he is. He's one of those guys that he's just trying to be his absolute best, and he's trying to tear the person's heart out in front of him. And you have that mindset. Anyone can work with that.
On the interception, was it a miscommunication there?
Won't get into too much detail, but yeah, there's little execution error from an offensive standpoint.
Robert, could you size up the center competition?
First day of pads, so we're going to find out a lot about all the competitions happening on the offensive line. Like I said, I really don't take much stock into what happens during the acclimation period without pads. Same with OTAs. But first day, obviously Connor's the veteran and understands the game of football in terms of the professional level. Love what Schweitzer's doing. Tip's catching up. Obviously, he's got a lot of stuff to absorb. You know, these offensive playbooks in this league are thick. So there's a lot of time left. 4 games. There's going to be a lot to be decided over the next month.
Are you a guy with the incumbent starts with a leg up? Like Connor, it's been Connor's job here for a few years since he started.
I don't know about that, but he's by far the most comfortable, and they're all going to get an equal opportunity to go get that job.
What went into the decision to kind of bring him back? Because I signed him in April.
Yeah.
You know, he does a little bit later.
He's a veteran. We've won a lot of games. We've won games with him. He's played a lot of games. He's started a lot of games. He's done a lot of great things for us. You know, so he's obviously a capable starting center in this league. He's proved it over and over again. So when the opportunity came about that we can get him back, it was kind of a no-brainer.
With Max Mitchell, Robert, you guys seem to have a quick trust in him. I mean, when he was drafted, it was like, okay, here's a kid from a small school, but you turned to him early last year, and now he's been out there quite a bit over there with the starters. So what are you seeing from him, and what have you seen from him that gives you the trust and belief in him to potentially be an anchor on your line? You know, last year it was one of those deals where we kind of had to start him because of all the carnage that we had on the offensive line, and I'm not going to pretend like there wasn't some sleepless nights being worried about whether or not he'd be able to perform. But then he goes out there and he performs. It's like, shoot, that wasn't bad, and he got better and better and better. And unfortunately, he had his the ailment. But you know, you trust a guy like him because he's going to figure it out. He's just pure grit and grind. And like I said before, he's kind of old school in that every single play is so important to him. He's going to learn it, and he's going to keep fighting no matter how bad the play is. The play before, he just drops it, goes to the next one, and he'll continue fighting. So. Love his mental makeup, love who he is as an individual, and he's earned that trust by being thrust into a fire last year when we didn't think he was ready. Kind of had to do it by necessity and prove that he's capable. Couple more.
When you thought of Makai so far, what have you thought of Beckham so far? Does he look like? I mean, he hasn't obviously played a lot of football.
Yeah, he's done a nice job. I'm pumped for him. You know, he's worked so hard to drop his weight and get himself into shape. He's just got to learn to trust his knee and find a way to get comfortable with it, but he's moving in the right direction.
It's super early for Barnes.
You got one?
Yeah, with Max.
I'll get you. I'm sorry.
With Max, for you as a coach, when you have a guy who was drafted a little bit later on and then fellowship, I mean, he's not a first-round pick, but you expect him to start right away. I mean, do you kind of enjoy that even a little bit more sometimes when you see that kind of a success story?
You know, it's I guess I always say that it doesn't matter where you're drafted. It doesn't matter where the opportunity comes. It's what you do when you get the opportunity. And knock on wood, we've been blessed, and at least speaking for myself, we've had a lot of day 3 kids, undrafted kids who have made it. I mean, more often than not, those are the guys. Those are the nuts and bolts of every football team. You know, the first, second, third rounders get all the praise, but it's the day 3 guys that kind of are fun to watch because they do kind of come out of nowhere. But it's almost a I guess I'm not as surprised when they do it, especially when you look at a guy like Max and the way he's wired. I think it's easy to imagine that he'd be a guy that's going to last in this league for a long time.
Yeah. Speaking of day 3 kids, I know it's super early, but how's Barnes grasping the defense, and if you like what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, he's doing a really nice job. Obviously, he's part of that third linebacker competition, and you know, there's a lot of information. There's still a long way for him to go, but obviously first day of pads, so excited to get back in just to see what he looked like. A lot of guys, when those pads come on, it's not that they get scared. It's just it's more keep your head on the swivel. There's a lot of different things that can happen, but I think he's going to continue to get better. Really excited about who he is and his mental makeup. But he's definitely someone who we think is going to be around this league for a long time too. So.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks guys.